Hello. Today I want to talk about a recent federal court decision in a case called JS versus Holly Area Schools. And the case gives a very practical example of First Amendment rights and their application in a school setting. The case involves two separate issues. One is distribution of religious materials by students to other students, and the other is distribution of religious materials from an outside person to students. So as to the student-to-student issue, second grade student comes to school one day with some flyers inviting students to a summer camp at his church. Attempts to distribute the materials, and his teacher stops him and says, no, that you can't distribute religious materials during school hours. After the mother complains, the school district confirms their belief that religious materials can't be distributed at all by students during school hours. Furthermore, in response, they tell the student that if you want, you can put these flyers in our rack in the school lobby, but that's the only way you can distribute them. And they go even further to tell all students through a communication from the front office that no students will be allowed anymore to distribute student-prepared materials to other students during the school day. In analyzing this case, the student sues, seeking an injunction, stopping the district from preventing him from distributing the materials. The court says, one, that students have the right to freedom of expression, citing the famous U.S. Supreme Court case of Tinker versus Des Moines. The court says that students don't shed their First Amendment rights at the schoolhouse gate. Accordingly, the school can regulate student speech based upon time, place, and manner, but they can't stop speech completely, and they have to allow students some venue by which they can have their protected First Amendment speech. The court also says that the rack in the front lobby isn't a sufficient way to do so because it's not an actual way for students to reach other students. Students don't congregate by the rack. The message wouldn't reach the intended recipient. And so the court says that the school must allow the students some way to distribute these materials to their peers. The second issue was distribution by this student's mother of flyers also relating to church activities through what the court calls a flyer forum. This flyer forum is a means by which outside groups can present flyers to this front office, who would then distribute these flyers to students. Usually these forums are used by AYSO soccer groups or Parks and Recs, that sort of thing. So the mother attempts to distribute flyers for church activities through this forum, and the school district says no, this is not an appropriate forum for religious materials. Says that the mother can't distribute those materials, again says you can use the rack in the front lobby of the school if you want to distribute these materials. Mother persists to attempt to try and distribute these materials, and eventually the school says, fine, we're going to shut this forum down completely. We're not going to allow anyone to distribute flyers anymore directly to the students. Mother also sues then, along with the student. Court says that the school has created a limited public forum. When they're going to do that sort of forum, they can't stop these flyers based solely upon the viewpoint. Shutting down that forum is an appropriate response. The problem in this case was that there was some evidence that the school later then reopened the forum. The court says if you're going to reopen the forum, you have to allow the mother the opportunity to distribute these flyers, and you can't stop her based solely upon the viewpoint being expressed. So, again, the court shows 2 points. One, student expression is something that has to be allowed in schools. You can limit it somewhat, but not completely. As to outside groups or individuals, you can determine whether or not you're going to allow it, but once you do, you can't stop it based solely upon the viewpoint.